What are the best Master Duel decks post the Duel Cup? Today, Big Dog, we're going to be talking about the best Yu-Gi-Oh! Strategies in Master Duel post the new Duel Cup that is coming out, ranking the decks all the way from top deck to Xbox Cross Playoff. Let's go ahead and jump on in. What's going on with y'all, Big Dog? And it is an amazing day for Yu-Gi-Oh! I hope that your day, phenomenal. But if it isn't, don't let what happened at the beginning of your day ruin the rest of your day. Just really quickly, guys. I know you guys see me normally with a black headband on, but I have to talk about this website incredibly fast, guys. I got this headband from believeItorNot.com. And if you guys want a cool headband, go on and shout out. I'm not sponsored by them or anything. I just wanted to talk about them and shout out this store because I got the Yu Yu Hakusho headband. Look. Do 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 do. So I had to shout out my dog here and give them the heads up again. BelieveItorNot.com. I actually might even collab with them to make some Yu-Gi-Oh! Headbands. They're incredibly comfortable too. What we're going to be ranking these strategies on is how fast do I think you can climb through the Duelist Cup, and subsequently, how strong do I think these are on the ladder? Of course, you guys can go ahead and post down below in the comment section, and of course, we'll have chat talking about where they think that potential strategies will be. Let's start off with Branded. Branded is one of those strategies that I think Brandon's one of the best decks in Master Duel still, which is, I think Konami does a really bad job at balancing decks. And when I mean a bad job, I actually kind of mean a good job, because it's almost like no matter what, almost every single strategy can compete. I mean, they really just got rid of Tearlament, and I wouldn't be surprised if Tearlament found another way to compete again. With that being said, the top tiers of Master Duel, the highest bracket, like Masters 1 and Rated, they still play Branded. But I think for an average Master Duel player, it's one of those takes a good pilot type deck, right? I just like off of the sheer knowledge of seeing regular Branded players, the normal average Branded player summons Mirror Jade Pass. The really good Branded players find out how to get through every single situation, which is kind of annoying, right? I think that Shining Sarcophagus getting Red Eye's Dark Dragoon is crazy for them. This is one of the very few strategies that can abuse Red Eye's Dark Dragoon and does a really good job at it. Though I still think that it's experimental. I think that Sarcophagus now does have that going first play. Like I said, Red Eye's Dark Dragoon is a thing, but is Red Eye's Dark Dragoon enough? Especially considering that Shining Sarcophagus is a strategy that isn't necessarily powerful. You look at the cards, they have some really cool things like being able to negate targeting, being able to negate cards. There is one spell card, I think it's Turn Silence, that can not only negate cards, but also end your opponent's battle phase. Really good against Tenpai. So I think there is mobility for this strategy to go up to takes a good pilot or really good. I think it is potential, and it very much can do that. But right now, I think players are still experimenting, especially since we just got Red Eye's Dark Dragoon. Mementos, I would say Memento right now, and it feels really painstaking to say this. Woo! So look. If you have your Memento cards, I would urge you not to decrowd, because Memento is missing a ton of cards that make it viable. There's Memento Sheet, there's Memento Akron. We don't even have the Goblin Biker support for Memento that actually makes Memento crazy good. It is a top deck in the TCG because of those cards. And then there's still Fiendsmith. Fiendsmith can be played inside of Memento to allow you to continuously combo. I think that this deck isn't good right now, but has the potential to be one of the best decks in the game. And it's simply because it just doesn't have the support. I know, Ultron, I don't want to disrespect the meme team. I love the meme team, but we gotta call it like we call it, right? Labyrinth is another one of those decks that in the right player's hands, it's dominant. We've seen it in the top of ranked, like you know, it was doing its thing, and it was a couple of few Labyrinth players. But also in the wrong player's hands, we've seen how Labyrinth has failed. I think it's one of those Branded situations, and it's really good to know that these decks have like an arc, like they're easy to learn, hard to master type thing. And I'm not even gonna lie, even I as a player, I struggle with playing Labyrinth from time to time just because of the unique interactions that you have and the situations that you're put in. So I don't really blame players for not necessarily being very good with this deck. I just think that it's one of the hardest decks to play in the game, right? Unless you're just flipping floodgates and you think you can win off of that. You'll get some wins off of that, but it won't carry you from the long run, right? I agree. Branded and Labyrinth are very, very well balanced. Now, I'm going to let the community vote on this because Whitewoods is like, there's two sides of Whitewoods, right? I would put Whitewoods personally on really good, right? I like that it meshes well with so many other strategies. I think that White Forest Centurion is legit, but it's like, it's one of those strategies that I would put better than really good because sometimes the deck plays for itself and it gets you wins. But it's also a strategy that has depth to it, right? You can't just pick up White Forest and expect to be really, really good with it. And one thing that I do hate about White Forest is that when you're playing this deck, you actually have to know how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! There's no turn it off, and you have limited resources as opposed to just playing like a pure Centurion deck. Gimmick Puppet, you guys saw me complain about this deck. I still think that this deck should not exist, mainly because if it goes first, we saw the deck go 26-0 or something like that, right? 26-1. And its only lost was because the Gimmick Puppet player was incompetent. Literal just incompetent. He had game, just decided not to do it. I guess he threw his opponent a bone. I want to say that it's really good, but I genuinely think that it's experimental. I think this deck is good enough to get you. Let me put it this way, and I say this, I use this analogy a lot. Gimmick Puppet is good enough to get you to the party, right? Like if you're looking for an invite to the party with all the other people, all the good players and stuff, it's good enough for you to be better than the bad players, enough for you to be recognized to get into the party. But as far as getting to the party, once you get into the party, you got to actually play Yu-Gi-Oh! And that's not going to be good for Gimmick Puppet because they know your counters, they know how to run it, they know everything about it, and you're kind of cooked, right? So I'm gonna put it in experimental. I believe experimental is crazy why Cali isn't playing Master Duel because of it. Bro, it's like, bro, I just hate the thought that somebody could FTK me simply because I don't have the correct hand. Like, I know how to stop the FTK, I know what to do, but if I simply do not have the right hand, or if I'm playing a board breaker deck, I just auto lose to the strategy. And I think that's just pure BS, right? But I do agree. It is a strategy that's like, I don't want to like I want to play board breakers. I don't want to play 15 million hand traps. True Draco. It's a biased take. I don't think it's a biased take. It's crazy that statistically it's not one of the best decks, and it FTKs. So I think experimental was actually good, and it can't be takes a good pilot because it like, what? That doesn't even make sense. What do you mean takes a good pilot? Like, there's nothing that requires a mind to play this deck, right? On to True Draco. I think True Draco as a pure deck, you guys are gonna hate me. I don't like, it's just not good, chat. I don't think this deck is good enough. Can you win with it? Sure, with Floodgates. But True Draco is a pure deck. It's fun. It's nice. It summons unstoppable monsters, but it's not good enough anymore, right? Maybe we'll get more support. I would put Heroes in experimental. I think that Heroes, first of all, they cost too much, which is it's kind of bad because I would love to play this deck. Secondly, it does have win conditions, but it's not that great, right? It's not bad by any means. I think it can definitely go up to higher than takes a really good pilot, but it's not bad. I also think that Orcust is experimental. I think it's better than True Draco, right? The boards that Orcust make in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Are not hard to play around. You combine that with the deck bricks. I remember I played against Orcust players pretty badly and still won just because my deck is more modernized than them and I have one card combos and they don't, right? Next is Dark Magician. Even with Dragoon, I still think that's cross-play off. And Sword Soul is in the same spot as Orcust. It can still do crazy things, but it's your power creep, dog. Just hang up the cleats, old man. Blue Eyes, definitely cross-play off until we get the new support. Pearly? I actually think Pearly's pretty dang good. I think, because we've seen Pearly in the top brackets, right? But the difference between Pearly and, you know, these other two decks that are beyond them is that Pearly actually has unfair cards. Like, if you summon Nor and then just make it unaffected, it kind of cooks, right? Like, it kind of beats Tempai Dragon, too. Like, what do they do with unaffected Nor? You just kind of, like, hold on, dog. Like, I can't attack over it either. You kind of cook your opponent. Chimera? I think that Chimera, and a lot of people think that Chimera isn't good till Fiendsmith. I would like to point out that we went all the way to Masters and we lost like 5 games with this deck. I think with the right player's hands, it's ridiculous. The only thing that I don't like about this deck, there's one thing I don't like about this deck. It's that as long as this deck's alive, it feels bad to play this deck because you can never play enough hand traps to stop this deck, right? Like I play, I think like 6 hand traps, maybe 9. But and it's not going to be enough. It's never going to be enough because you're gonna need to play all the hand traps to be able to stop. Voiceless Voice. I think Voiceless Voice is a top deck. Now the reason why I put Voiceless Voice in top deck is because it's easy to play, so the bots can actually like just play. It puts up the negates. It has everything that it needs. The Voiceless Voice arc needs to be studied because we initially thought it was good, then bad, then good, then bad, and Voiceless Voice is the most represented deck, if I remember correctly, inside of the top bracket. And it does pretty well. And it consistently wins games as well as being a deck that plays under Maxi and is easy to play. I think that this would be the best deck for a beginner to play all the way to intermediate and advanced. Centurion, I think Centurion's like stuck between these two, right? Centurion is, I'm gonna put it in takes a good pilot. I think one of the biggest things about Centurion is that, like, if you get hand trapped at the right spot, you kind of skip your turn, which means that you're gonna need a good deck builder and a skilled pilot to be able to bait those interactions and play around it. I think Solomon Great is ironically really good, right? I think Solomon Great is a lot better than what Yu-Gi-Oh players are gonna give it credit. And my biggest reason is because if you get Maxi, you just make Baguska with the Solomon Great Roar. Like what most decks can't out that. And that's like a secret that people do not know. Like, I don't care how many cards that you draw, you're going to get Baguska, Solomon Great Roared. And so whatever, you're going to need to open like double Imperm, which isn't impossible, but you're going to need to open multiple good things to be able to play. And if you don't get hit with stuff like that, Maxi is one of the only cards now that shifters at 1 now. You don't got to deal with stuff like that. It's less interactions for Solid to be actually able to deal with. I think it's a good pilot type Yu-Gi-Oh deck. This is still the best deck in Master Duel, which is disturbing. I think this is better than Voiceless Voice. It's like, when are they actually going to hit this deck? Like legitimate hits. Like, cook it. Just cook it, bro. Cook the deck. I don't know. I don't think anybody knows. At least another 10 more years, right? Yubel, I think, is still a top deck. What are you going to actually do the thing? I think, so Yubel and Fire King don't get represented as much is because they're, I ain't gonna lie, the difference between top deck and takes a good pilot, I don't think is as much. Like in TCG, the difference between these 3 ranks would be this deck can do well at regionals, this deck can top a YCS consistency, these decks can win a YCS. That's how it would be for the TCG. For Master Duel, it would be like any of these decks can get you to Masters, right? These decks with the right dedicated person, and you might have to like find some things out, can get you to Masters. This deck, I mean, you're like playing Dark Souls trying to get these decks to Masters, right? But Yubel is still a top deck because nothing changed. Nothing has changed for Yubel. Chat, is Phantom of Yubel still at more than 1? Congratulations. It's still one of the best decks. It's still a crazy good deck that plays through interruption. I think people just stop playing these decks as much. Kashtira, that's easily really good. we have Graveyard Reliance here. This deck's going to probably be really, really crazy until that switches up. Tier limit, I don't know why this is on the Master Duel tier list, but I think it's finally dead. I think, I hope, right? I think Rika is experimental. This deck's really good, but it takes too much time. I think Melodious has some pretty good variants. And the good thing about Melodious is that enough hand trap stops, but it's harder to go into established boards and stuff like that. Dragons aren't that good. I think Ritual Beast is pretty good. Despite losing Shifter, it's a solid Yu-Gi-Oh deck. The problem with this deck has instant win buttons like, you know, Protoss and stuff like that. This deck doesn't, right? It has really good cards, but not an instant win version. The Supreme King, oh, I forgot about Supreme King. Yeah, you're right. I'd put the Supreme King version as really good. You're not wrong, GB. The Supreme King version is crazy. Tempai Dragon is how to be good for idiots. One of the best decks in the game. I think Goblin Biker takes a good pilot. This deck's strong, but doesn't really give enough. I like, you know what? We saw a Tempai Dragon Goblin Biker deck, and I thought that was really, really cool. Hopefully we see more of that. But this deck's actually crazy. Next, we have Live Twin. I can't put it down here, right? Nah, it's it's not. Yeah, guys. No. That you guys are gooning, just like with Trap Tricks or Trickstar. This deck literally got nothing other than two different alternative arts, and you guys immediately started gooning over it and giving players free wins. This deck's not. It's not bad. I actually think it's probably one of the best Xbox crossplay off. It's good enough, right? It's like a sprite deck in disguise. And Dinos. 3 Dragonic Diagram, 3 Misk. This is the most free Dino has ever been, and I'm still going to put it in Xbox crossplay off. I actually think that it's worse. I think if this was in order, I think that it's Trickstar might be catching up to Dinos. It'd be something like this, right? And again, we don't even know if this deck is real, so if it's real, it's probably like right here. If it's not real, it's right here, right? So this would be my tier list. There are ways to be able to make like cards like Baron and Dolka to protect your Misk, but to be honest, you got to play way too many bricks to even make this a feasible thing. Like it's not a good deck, chat, and it hurts my heart to say this because your 2-card combos are trash. These decks 2-card combos and 1-card combo. Well, let's put it this way: Voiceless Voice 1-card combo equals Dinos. Equals Dinos 2-card combo, and you guys can't argue that. But that's what I got for the Master Duel tier list. Let me know what you guys think. Obviously, there's quite a few strategies that I may have missed. And then there's some other strategies that you think that I got wrong. Only time will tell. Let me know down below in the comment section. I can't wait to catch you on the next video.